In studio with us today, we have the wonderful and debonair and always great to talk with Melissa Sobolik. So, Melissa, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How would the listening audience know you if they're just tuning in and they don't know who the wonderful Melissa Sobolik is?
Well, first and foremost, I am on the Fargo City Commission and very excited about that. I'm in year 3, and I also work at the Great Plains Food Bank, where I've been for a little over 8 years and now in a new role.
So switching things up, what I love about you, Melissa, is that you and I got to know each other years ago because of our involvement with youth.
Absolutely.
Tell me what your involvement with youth in this community has been leading up to today.
Well, really, that's one of my biggest passions is getting youth involved in leadership roles and engaged in their community. And that's where you and I met, was through Fill the Dome and Homeless and Hungry. Yep. And that was a huge opportunity to get young people learning about some of the challenging issues in our community and actually stepping up and taking a stand against some of those things and learning a lot and bringing adults along for the ride.
You and I are passionate about change, right?
Yes, we are.
And change from the bottom up as opposed to necessarily the top down.
Yes.
And yet you find yourself now on the Fargo City Commission fighting a fight every day to try to make change, both from top down and bottom up.
Yes.
How you doing?
It's a challenge, let me tell you. It's something I'm really excited about, the opportunity to be in a completely different role where you have a little bit of authority and power to make change, which is really, really exciting. And I think when you're on the ground level, you always see it as a fight because you always have to try to get people in power to understand. And so it's a complete different shift for me. So my work on the City Commission is very different than my work at the food bank because I'm working on both different levels.
Right. And I think that actually provides a great balance for our community and especially the people in need. You are one of the good ones out there, Melissa, and you're fighting a great fight. So on behalf of the city of Fargo, let me say thank you for your willingness to serve and doing what I sure as heck don't want to do. So thank you for that. But I want to talk about this great city of ours.
Yes.
And there are changes aplenty right now in the housing market, and you are very astute as to things that are happening right now. Did I read correctly in this new report that came out that Fargo's adding something like 2,500 people a year right now?
That's correct. Isn't that just incredible? You think we're adding...
Where are they coming from?
Right. Well, they're coming from all over. And I think, just like me, it's a lot of rural people moving into the big city of Fargo. And a ton of people are just flocking to North Dakota because of the oil boom. And whether they're making it out west or whether they're migrating to Fargo, we are seeing a huge influx of people.
I actually read a report, and it was a housing forecast, and people are fearful about the depression in oil prices right now because a lot of the temporary workers have decided to now leave. But what we're finding is that the permanent workers are still, there's still oil in their fields, right?
Right. Yes, there is.
And so the permanent people are now finding permanent housing at a more affordable rate out in western North Dakota. And we're seeing an influx of people even here in Fargo. Have you noticed that as well?
Absolutely. And that's what we're hearing, whether at the food bank or at the city level, we are hearing people that their families are moving here and there may be one of the parents out west working and sending all the money back.
So, Melissa, again, those of you just tuning in, Melissa Sobolik of Fargo City Commission and the Great Plains Food Bank, and we're talking about the 2015 Fargo Housing Study. What do people need to know from this study that they maybe don't already? We covered that there's 2,500 people a year coming in. What else are some of the big ahas of this study?
I think this study did a lot on demographics, and we know that the age range of people coming in is going to be young professionals. So from 25 to 40, and that in the next, 15 to 20 years, we're also going to have a huge influx of senior population. Our baby boomers are reaching retirement age. They're living longer. So I think we have some unique housing challenges as seniors stay in their homes longer.
So what does it mean in the fact that we have, I want to first talk about the young folks and then we'll talk about the elderly. With 25 to 40-year-olds coming to this city, what does that mean for our economy? What does that mean for our housing? What's the forecast with that?
Well, it's really exciting, first of all, because they're finding jobs here and they're making their roots here. On the other side, what they can't find is affordable housing. The median price of a home is about $250,000. And when you're coming in as a young professional starting your career, that's just not feasible to do. And so we're seeing a lot of them having to rent for longer than they intended to because they can't afford to get into a home.
What are the numbers that are studied specifically of how many people are renting here as opposed to how many people own? Do you know that? Because I think what I've heard is that it's like 59 or 60% of people actually choose to rent. when about the other 40% choose to own. Is that a grossly accurate statement?
Yeah. So actually, what in our study they found 65% are renting and 35% are owning.
As a realtor, I'm going to pull my hair out.
Yeah, I know.
So what's our solution then? Because if we're going to build houses and we want to get affordable housing for people, lot prices keep going up.
Yep.
The cost of labor goes up. The cost of materials goes up. How do we solve this problem?
So one of the first things is actually buying an existing home and not building new. In our older neighborhoods, these are beautiful character homes. That's where I bought my first home. And that's where we see a lot of young professionals trying to get in. Those houses, though, are not going on the market like they used to because people are staying in them longer. So that's always one of the things is, can we make sure that we're investing in those established neighborhoods and in those homes to make them viable options for first-time home buyers?
Right.
On the flip side, when you're talking building new homes, the specials in this community are very, very expensive.
Yeah, they're not very special.
No, they aren't at all. And so that's something that the city is actually going to need to address because we don't have affordable housing. And I know affordable is sort of a relative term.
It's a relative term, absolutely.
But as the city, we're going to need to step up and make sure that we can have people move into home ownership and that they're not renting their entire life.
Melissa, we have more to talk about. We're going to have you stick around after the break. In the meantime, those of you listening, go to livefargomoorhead.com, sign up to find out what your home is worth so you can see how much cash you're sitting in, and maybe what Melissa's going to say about building or moving to a new place might tickle your fancy. But in the meantime, stick around. This is Real Estate Radio with Erik Hatch. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio. As always, I'm your host, Erik Hatch, and still in studio with us, we have Melissa Sobolik from the Fargo City Commission and the Great Plains Food Bank, and we're talking about Fargo housing, one of my favorite topics on earth. Melissa, what gets you jazzed about these studies? Because I know you were amped up to talk to us about what we found in these studies. Why?
Well, this was exciting because this is the first time in 10 years that we've actually looked at the housing market in Fargo, which I think we realized we can't wait 10 years to do. The thing that got me most excited is all the young professionals that are staying in Fargo. That's just incredible. They're making their home here. They're getting a career here. They want to set up roots, and that is thrilling. We didn't have that for a long time ago.
Now, is it just people who are working at Sanford and Essentia, or is it people who are in the tech field? Who are these young professionals that are staying here right now?
A lot of it is after they're leaving college, they're finding good professions here, they have family here, they have ties here, and they're sticking around and finding good jobs. And I think a lot of it is the medical field, but we do have this technology. We've got this young entrepreneurship programs going on in the community, and everyone just wants to stay.
Fargo's an interesting hotbed, and the listeners who maybe aren't fully in tune with what's happening in the tech field and the entrepreneurial playground of a sort right now, there's some incredible movements that are happening with young people. And so one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is, yes, the number was 2,500 people per year that Fargo's bringing. That's not counting West Fargo and Moorhead either.
Absolutely.
In fact, the number I've heard is it's about 4,000 across the board. And so imagine the influx of 4,000 people, but the number that really affects this are households. And the number of households are directly affected by how many spouses and kids people have. So how many households are coming per year? Do you know that stat?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I'm sure it's in the study.
I think if I remember the notes correctly, Melissa, it was something like 1,100 or 1,200 households.
Yes,
is that right?
You are correct. 1,240.
Oh my gosh, I'm like the Rain Man of real estate.
This is really good. I know.
So 1,240 households that are coming just to Fargo.
Yes.
Where do we put 1,240 new houses a year? Because not that many houses are even being built in a year. Correct?
Right, absolutely. And so we find ourselves doing somewhere around 500 to 600 single-family homes a year. Obviously, we have a much greater need. And when developers are looking, they're looking south and looking at building new neighborhoods, which is where we're seeing a lot of the growth. But I think the important thing to remember is if we do want affordable housing, it's where those communities are already built and where we have the infrastructure already in place.
So is there room to add more? If I were to go to my favorite street in Fargo, and that's 8th Street South, in the main avenue to 17th Avenue corridor, so can we add more houses in there? That's
going to be extremely difficult. Those historic neighborhoods, you really can't do much more there.
And same with existing neighborhoods, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we're a bit landlocked, and people have nice-sized yards, and that's a great thing for them.
It is, and they like that.
So for the new families coming in, the 1,240 households a year just in Fargo, where are they choosing to live if it's not south? They're choosing to rent, aren't they?
They are. That's exactly what they're doing. They're in an apartment or they're in a condo or a townhome, something temporary until they can find somewhere permanent.
So because of this supply and demand model, Melissa, what does that mean for those people who own a house, say under that median price of $250,000, an existing house? What does that do to their property value?
Well, it's actually increasing because as the prices go up and up, their value is increasing and their assessed value is increasing. And so, if they would ever choose to leave, they're going to get a really great price for their home, which is what I saw when we left our home. That people snatched it up within hours, which is incredible.
And we have the privilege at Hatch Realty to actually sell your house. And so thank you for that opportunity and responsibility. The funny thing is that was 2 years ago.
Yes.
And you moved downtown.
We did.
To be a part of the hotbed.
Yes.
And now your old house is being sold again.
It is.
By us.
I know. It's full circle.
Yeah. And what is the value difference between what you sold it for and what it's on the market for now?
So 2 years ago when we sold it, it was at $160 and the asking price right now is $180.
So $20,000 of appreciation in 2 years. Do the math on that quickly. We're at 5, 10. That's about a 13% appreciation in a 2-year period.
It's pretty incredible.
Is that common across the board throughout the community, Melissa?
I think it's pretty common if you look Fargo, West Fargo, and Moorhead. I think if you start looking nationwide, we are faring much better than other communities.
Yeah. Again, in studio with us, Melissa Sobolik of Fargo City Commission and the Great Plains Food Bank. Melissa, I want to wrap up with quickly talking about what you see as the future for Fargo, because our Fargo housing study now says that the supply and demand model is all cockamamie in weird directions. And I love that I just used the word cockamamie.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you. So as this demand increases, what's the solution or what's going to happen with current home prices, with renting, and with everything else? Give us a forecast.
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball and I could give you clearly what is going to happen, but I think there are some things that the city needs to address as far as special assessments and making sure that we have affordable homes that people can move into. And we need to be really receptive to not only the young professionals moving in, but our seniors who are aging in their homes. And I think the makeup of Fargo is going to shift, and we just have to be responsive to know what's in the study and actually be proactive in making sure that we can move people into homes. We have some challenges ahead of us, and I wish I could tell you exactly what's going to happen. I don't know, but rest assured that we are working on it, and with partners like you, we'll have the conversation and see what we can do.
Well, thank you for your input on this. What a great problem for a city to have, our growing pains. I often get a chance to drive around incoming physicians for Sanford around the community, and I talk about these things of these housing forecasts and how if you can find a foreclosed or abandoned building in this town, it's simply because you found a needle in a haystack. They really don't exist. And so we have great problems right now, and to have a fighter like you on the City Commission, thank you for that. If people want to reach out to you, and I'm sure they do all the time, what's the best way they can contact you?
The best way is email, and it's msobolik@cityofargo.com, or go to cityofargo.com online, and you can just get in touch with me.
Melissa, thanks. You're a gem of a gal, and a gem of a gal. Wow.
You're good today, Eric. I love the words.
Yeah, I've been drinking most of the morning. It's great. Melissa, sincerely, thanks for coming in. We appreciate your insight. Those of you who are at home right now, go to livefargomoorhead.com and find out what your home is worth.